Welcome to Outside Sales Talk, where we meet with industry experts to learn the strategies and tactics that make them successful. I'm your host, Steve Benson, and I've helped thousands of salespeople all over the world crush their quota. Today, I'll help you crush yours. Welcome back to Outside Sales Talk. Today we have Everold Reid with us today, and we're talking about how to motivate yourself in outside sales. By way of introduction, Everold is a sales coach, speaker, and author of the Reid Method, a blueprint for achieving sales mastery. Everold has over 25 years of sales and marketing experience in the retail, automotive, and advertising industries. His advice and insights on automotive selling and marketing are sought after by some of the world's top automotive brands, Toyota, Lexus, etc. As a sales coach and mentor, he helps sales teams implement tools and action plans to improve their sales processes and hit targets faster. Everold is also the host of the Reid Method Insider podcast, a great show where I had the pleasure of being a guest on there a few months ago. Everold, welcome to Outside Sales Talk.
This is fun. I can't believe we're now reciprocating. When I reached out to you, or you had reached out, your company had reached out to me earlier in the year, I thought it was a very engaging episode too. I learned a lot from about Badger Maps and about outside sales reps from your software and your business, and I've been following it since. So thanks very much.
Fantastic. Well, I'm excited to have you here today and get some of your insights on motivation out to our listeners. So,
absolutely. First
question, just to jump right in. Every outside salesperson has highs and lows in their career and has to deal with rejection, obstacles, etc. It's easy to get discouraged by that. What strategies and techniques can salespeople use to motivate themselves consistently and keep their drive alive?
Well, I learned the hard way, and it took me years to learn this. So anyone listening, here are the facts. And from somebody who's in their late 40s and have been in sales 2.5, almost 3 decades, is you have to adapt personal development as the cornerstone for your ultimate success. The days of waiting for clients to show up or call you back, and the demand of your product or service are done. You have to have the discipline to engage in personal development. And what I've learned, and I wish I had done this decades before, is to adapt personal development as a cornerstone of your success plan. And you will not get discouraged if you're consistently learning. So, and that's what I've been doing more and more lately. I've learned in the past 5 years more than I've learned in many years before, because of what I now practice. So I have all these daily rituals and stuff. So find ways to deliver more value to your clients, and the way to do that is to be able to consistently learn more about how you can not be demotivated. So every day when I'm going to work, whether I made no sales yesterday, or I'm having a bad morning or whatever, I always find ways to dive into my tools, my success tools and my motivational tools to get myself and my mind ready.
Okay, and specifically, how do you do that? Like, what are your tools, and how do you dive into them like that?
The most successful way is to have a routine, and any successful salesperson or successful business person has a morning or a nightly routine. And those routines usually either end the night with setting goals for the next morning, or the first thing you do in the morning is set your goals and plan your day. And for some, that routine may include some sort of meditation or some sort of motivation, whether you're listening to something or watching, something on YouTube, or favorite, whatever, your favorite motivational speaker, could be a song, could be anything that gets you energized and ready. And then you have to have that routine down. So that routine has to be down pat, and then you have to set your goals for the day. I don't leave my house into my car without those goals already in my mind or written down. And the best thing is to write them down. And so you have to practice structuring your day first and foremost. And so that's ritual number one, which basically is goal setting. And then number two, like I said, some people will meditate and get their mind in the right place so that they can leave. And whether you pick up a coffee or whatever and you have on the way to work, you're in that space. You're getting yourself psyched up and ready. And so you're getting your mind primed. And then on your way to work, you're listening to shows like, Outside Sales Podcast, or you're listening to the Reid Method podcast, or I got to where I am by listening to others, watching others, and in that net time in your car, driving to work or driving to your first outside sales call, you want to make sure that you're listening to, whatever drives you. And to be honest with you folks, it's not music. You can listen to a song or two, but don't let that be consuming your day, or the news, or because it's mostly negative. And even if you're the biggest sports fan, that's one good thing to do, but you don't let that consume your day. Always be listening to things that teach you to how to get better, how to, craft your next sales conversation, how to get the next best ideas. And that's what I constantly do every single morning. I've read now 6 books or 7 books just in the last 4 months on Audible. And prior to that, Stephen, I read 3 books in my entire life. So there's always a way. I swear, there's no excuse for anyone. There's no excuse for anyone anymore to go to work without a plan, without the right mindset in sales to be successful.
Yeah, I think planning's so important. And I try to do this every day. I don't always succeed, but I try to, at the beginning of the day, I have a calendar invite every morning to that I call MIT, most important thing. And I'm not sure where I picked this up. This is nothing that I made up. So I read about it somewhere, but it was, have a list of the most important things that you want to get done today, and put it in that calendar entry. And in that way you can, when you're like, oh, what do I do next? The failover should always be to check that calendar entry and be like, oh, well, this was the most important thing. I should do this. And I guess it's kind of a riff on the whole, do something that's urgent but not important. Do the things that are urgent and important first, then important but not urgent. Basically, do what's important before what's urgent. And there's that, that Eisenhower matrix that's so popular, where you kind of have things that are urgent versus the things that are important, and you never want to do the things that aren't urgent but aren't important. And you want to delegate the things that are urgent but are not important, and you want to do the things that are urgent and are important, and then the things that are not urgent and are important. That's where you want to spend your time on what's important, basically. So that's been a thing that I've used, and it has worked great for me.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've learned a lot too about planning, and I continue to find ways to do that, to improve my efficiency and my productivity, because I still feel, even though, you and I are both busy people, I can speak for myself where I know I can even be more productive. So I just finished reading this book called Deep Work. And yeah, so I'm trying to learn different ways. And Darren Hardy has Insane Productivity, that webinar. So anywhere I can pick up tips on being more efficient, I definitely want to do that.
Well, I read in your book that the thoughts you have around procrastination, and how procrastination comes from a lack of motivation. Do you have any tips for salespeople who put off doing certain tasks that might be unpleasant but need to be done? So the admin work, the prospecting, the dealing with difficult customers, etc. How do you avoid procrastinating there?
Well, it was always one of my weakest weakest habit, so to speak, over the years, was, always just wait until the last minute or the last few days to get things done. And, what you find is procrastination really is a momentum killer. Because even those who have had, let's say, a great day or a great few days, then they're the ones that literally take a step back and procrastinate because you've had a few good days instead of pushing forward to kill the week, to assassinate the week, so to speak, from a business perspective. Or those who know that they should follow up, they should send a follow-up email, drop in, send the proposal, send the quote, whatever, and they don't, or they don't in time and lose business because of procrastination. So I find that it's a huge motivational killer. It's a huge momentum killer, and definitely a huge deal killer. Because today, when people respond, and I still sell actively with Lexus. So if you don't respond right away to people, especially with electronic leads these days, you are pretty much toast. So there's no more waiting. You can't say, well, I'm going to get back to them tomorrow. Even if they said tomorrow or 48 hours is good. I don't recommend that at all. So procrastinated in setting goals, procrastinated in following up, procrastinated in doing research, in investing in yourself. Those I find all they do is cost you money and cost you business. So I encourage anybody who are in outside sales or inside sales like I am, because you're managing yourself, really, if you're an outside sales rep, that's one behavior you have to kill, and as Charles Schwab says, you have to eradicate the human behavior of relaxing. So that's my one tip.
All right. Well, that's a great tip. What are some things that you think cause salespeople to feel unmotivated that they should avoid doing?
Yeah, this avoid your lazy coworkers. Straight up. This is no BS talk here. The people around you can be the biggest drainers of your energy and productivity and efficiency. So I make a point of, like, usually on Mondays, I would try to get into the office like at 7 or 7:30 to start off before anybody else gets there for 9 o'clock. Right? So that you can plan. And the reason I do that is because I don't need the distraction. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that does kill your motivation is the fact that once everybody's around you, or you're fielding everybody's phone call or text messages or Facebook this and that, you're allowing these people to demotivate you by sucking your time and sucking your energy and your focus away from what you really should be doing. So that's one thing I practice more now is literally, even though my office is a glass door, I close the glass door. So they can see me, they're sliding glass doors. They can see me and I just wave, mm-hmm. Or I'll keep my head down and so they can leave me alone because it's usually not important. It's usually a coffee break or something they want to talk about in sports or what they did over the weekend. And at the end of the day, if you're interrupted 20 times a day, which most people are, if not more, how much time and productivity have you lost? And then you wonder why you haven't sold any products or services or gotten any deals, and then you get demotivated. It's because you're allowing people to suck the energy out of you.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of people that work from home talk about how much more they get done at home than they get done when they go into the office, just because you do take away all those distractions and challenges. I always come into the office myself, but that's because a lot of the things that I do are face to face. But when I was in outside sales, I did work from home or from the road all the time. And I was rarely in the office and rarely and I did find when I went in, all the social catching up and people that want to chit chat, that takes away from your productivity for certain.
Yeah. And I'm not saying don't talk to your coworkers or, don't socialize, but there's a time and place for all of that. Mm-hmm. You structure your day and soon enough, your coworkers and your bosses will realize, Stephen is in the zone between 7:30 and 9:30. Don't bug him. Or you have what's called power hours, or jam sessions, according to Darren Hardy. That's how he refers to them. But there are times of the day you have to put aside, and your team will know that, okay, he's busy, he's strategizing, he's getting ready for his week or his day, or he's following up with clients, and they stay away.
Yeah, we have a rule at Badger: if someone has their headphones on, leave them alone. That means they're locked into their work and they're doing stuff.
Yeah, whatever works, right? Whatever works. And sometimes you can put a sign on your door, like a hotel sign that says, "I'll be available at." You're not saying that you're not available, right? You're just saying, "I'll be available at."
Yeah, well, I tell people on my team to email me if they need something, even if they're in the same room, because if I have my headphones on, it's 'cause I'm trying to figure something out, or I'm doing the deep work,
Yes. One of my colleagues, just before we leave this point here, his autoresponder on his email will say what time he'll be available or what time he'll call you back.
That's great.
Yeah.
So for sales managers, it's a part of their job to motivate their sales reps and make sure they perform at their best. How can managers set the right incentives for their team to increase motivation and therefore drive results?
I have a big issue with this one, because having been a senior manager, as is written on my book and was endorsed by the owner of our dealerships, he alluded to the fact that he's never seen someone so focused and dedicated to achieving goals. And that was an unsolicited endorsement, but I was very taken back when he wrote that off me. But what I see today in managers is managers like to, delegate and boss people around and give orders, but they are not doers. So, if you listen to Richard Branson, he'll tell you that the best managers and motivators are the ones that lead by example. They're the ones that first show how something could be done better and have a discussion and ask questions and come to a conclusion, rather than just say, do this and do that. And oftentimes those bosses don't get very far, and their productivity is actually lower, much lower than the bosses that will actually lead by example.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense to me.
Yeah.
Go on.
So I find that, even today where I work, I'm often there earlier than most. There's one manager that usually is there earlier than, or early than the sales staff, but most aren't. And then if you're asking somebody to stay late, but you're going home at 5, or you're going home early, how does that actually look?
Yeah.
Right. And where's the accountability for the manager, for himself? So I think it's more about adapting collaborative thinking between your sales team and management, and strategizing. And that's how, when you do it together, you'll find that salespeople are more driven from the inclusion and the collaboration, more than basically being ordered around.
Makes a ton of sense. Well, the next section is sales in 60 seconds, where what we do is I'll ask a series of questions, and the goal is to answer each question in a minute. So for starters, what is your biggest motivation in your role as a sales coach and a consultant?
I like to see and hear when people say, "Oh my God, I can't believe how you made it sound much easier for me. I can't believe how you made me realize how much capabilities I have within me, or you brought out my true abilities."
What would you say the key thing that you do is that brings out those true abilities and brings out that motivation?
I think it's the way that I elaborate and coordinate and give examples of my true experiences in the examples that I teach. So if I'm talking about, I'm very big on the philosophy and understanding the why and the how. And my book was kind of written around that premise, where it's better if instead of saying, go do this, do that, and here's a procedure and a strategy to follow, well, why is that important? How is that important? How does that make sense? So if you explain to salespeople so that they understand why you're asking them to do something, and then you're showing them how it actually works, they realize their own inner strengths. So I've left workshops where I've had people go back and rip up their existing sales plan and double and triple it because they've now realized that they are much more capable than they thought before.
Awesome. Well, you have one of the most popular podcasts around on sales. After interviewing so many successful sales professionals on that podcast, what message or advice have you found to be particularly valuable?
After interviewing so many, here's one I learned. I learned that, because I reached out and have had some very, notable guests on the show. And I consider I talk about your company a lot, even though it's relatively new, but what you do is important to the show. Okay. But to have Les Brown, Tom Hopkins, many other world-renowned, motivational and sales practitioners on the show, I think the one lesson and the one takeaway is, if you actually set those goals high and ask people, you'd be surprised that they're willing to say yes. So not to be afraid to go after the big fish, so to speak.
Awesome. What's your favorite sales tool or app that you use on a regular basis?
I use multiple things. For me, I started listening to the Success Magazine podcast and their CDs. And it's not all about sales. It's about motivation. It's about how to do things. It's about taking action. So I listened to that, and that's how I started my podcast, because there was one episode there about not procrastinating with Mel Robbins and the 5-second rule, which is a very popular book now. So instead of worrying about what your website's going to look like, whether it's blue or red or pink, the bottom line is to start. And because it's not going to be the same color in 6 months anyway. So, but if you don't start, nothing will ever happen. And there goes the procrastination question again. So it's all about starting. And so I listened to that episode, show religiously. I've listened to guys like Earl Nightingale and Jim Rohn, the foundation sales and motivational trainers. Those are the trainers that got the current guys like Anthony Robbins, for example, sold Jim Rohn's courses back in the day. They've attended Tom Hopkins seminars back in the day. The Grant Cardones of sales today. Those are the guys that are the current powerhouses of the sales training world. But I listen more to the foundational guys and learn from them as well. And so I'm on that a lot. So it's YouTube, it's Salesforce and Success. And I like the Believe, Evan Carmichael. He's got a very good YouTube channel. I listen to him a lot.
What is the 5-second rule? You mentioned that. I'm kind of curious.
So the 5-second rule from Mel Robbins, that book was written on the premise that, the fundamental example is, you get up, you set your clock for 6 o'clock in the morning to get up, right? And 6 o'clock comes around and the alarm goes off, and the immediate tendency of anyone is to hit this snooze button, right? Mm-hmm. And most people will hit that 2, 3, 4 times before they get up. And then by the time that happens, it's 6:20. So there is, the science behind it is the mechanisms within your brain are designed to talk you out of what you're supposed to do. But if you actually react and do it within 5 seconds, you actually can override that deficiency. So it's on the premise of counting backwards: 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and get up.
Okay.
or you
Okay.
get up and you count backwards. But the bottom line is, if you count backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you've pretty much overridden the power of your brain trying to tell you to stay in bed.
Very cool. Very cool tip. Yeah, I always try to avoid the snooze button. I feel like I should have just set the first alarm later if I'm going to hit the snooze button, because I feel like it's not good sleep. I feel like it makes you
Honestly, that happened to me this morning too, and I was pissed. And because and it's never a good thing. It never ends well, folks, because you're gonna be mad at yourself. I planned out my whole day last night, right? I put everything in scheduled in the calendar, including this podcast, and then 4:30 a.m., which is, I know it's ungodly, but I wanted to get some things done before, and then get to the gym for 6, and then this and that. And honestly, I hit the snooze button because I could blame it on the barbecue yesterday, but I didn't feel good when I was driving into work. So it's not worth it, folks.
So true. So true. What is there a particular movie you think every salesperson should watch and learn from?
Oh my god. I looked up I looked up the name of it, and the name escapes me, but it's the one with the stockbroker.
Boiler Room.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, there's some classic quotes from there for sure.
Yeah, I've never watched that movie in its entirety, by the way. I've seen bits and pieces of it.
It's good. It's definitely worth checking out for sure.
Yeah, and the one with Will Smith, when he also got the job as a
Oh, yeah, where he's selling that machine. That's a great one. I forget the title of that, but that's a great sales movie.
Yeah.
What's your best sales advice that you would like to give for our listeners?
What is my best sales advice? Well, okay, it's definitely, folks, to invest in yourself first. I really regret not investing in myself at an earlier age. I'm not afraid to say I'm 48 years old, but the discipline of putting yourself first, as far as your life and your health and your career, is utmost important, because you got to invest in yourself as a person, which means you're making your life better, which means you can produce and be a better salesperson, or be a better husband, or a better father or wife, or whatever. But you have to put yourself in that position to win. And in order to put yourself in the position to win more in sales, you have to first take care of yourself, and you have to invest in yourself. Warren Buffett will tell you the greatest investment you can make is not the billions of dollars that he has, but it's in yourself.
Fantastic advice. Truly fantastic. As a final takeaway for the salespeople listening who may feel unmotivated or stuck, what should they do as a first step today to get out of the slump and motivate themselves?
Well, I had Les Brown on the show 2 episodes ago for his 3rd appearance, and he's been very generous with his time. So, the episode was about getting unstuck, and there was a lot of takeaways from that. But a lot of it has to do about shifting your mindset. And in order to shift that mindset, you literally have to adapt the principle of investing the time and the discipline to listen to others, or to maybe get a coach, or to, ask for help. There's nothing wrong with saying, hey, where do you get the best sales tip? Who do you listen to? Go to the number 1 sales rep and say, how do you do this? Listen to a show like mine or yours. Call us for help. I mean, I respond to anyone who sends me an email or a message and saying, hey, can you give me some advice on this? So motivating yourself first starts with self-discipline and investing in yourself, because you'll find all the motivation you need in the resources. And there's so much resources out there. There's no shortage of finding ways to motivating yourself.
Awesome. Well, Everold, I'm going to try to summarize all the things that we've talked about today in a minute here. So, and I do that every time, just because a lot of times people are driving when they're listening to this, and so it helps them. You hear something twice, it sticks in your brain. So
Yeah.
Here I go. So to motivate yourself in sales, you have to adapt personal development as the cornerstone of your ultimate success.
Yes.
Find out what kinds of tools or strategies work for you personally and help you stay motivated. The
Yeah.
best way could be to develop a morning and or nightly routine. For example, set your goals for the day every morning or every night for the next day.
Yeah.
So first, practice structuring your day and set your goals. Second, meditate or do whatever works for you to get your mind in the right space. Third, on your way to work or your first meeting, listen to a podcast or something that drives you in a positive way to develop yourself. Procrastination is not only a momentum killer, but also a deal killer. If you don't respond to people right away and push things off, you'll lose the deals. It only costs you more time, money, and business, so procrastination is crucial to avoid. One tip is to stay away from lazy coworkers. Make sure you surround yourself by people that work the way you want to work and that give you motivation instead of drain your energy. And I guess not just lazy coworkers, but coworkers that kind of sap aren't helping you be more productive.
That's right.
You can talk about Sunday's game for a half hour, in the break room, but that does not help you close more deals.
Yeah, yeah. The ceaseless solicitation on your time doesn't help you.
Yeah. Avoid interruptions and distractions to stay productive and focused on whatever is most important and needs to be done at the moment. As a sales manager, you need to be a role model and lead by example. Adapt collaborative thinking and inclusion between you and your team to increase their motivation. Another tip from Everold is to set your goals high and don't be afraid to go after the big fish. Try out the 5-second rule, react within 5 seconds, and just start things without thinking about them too long, and you trick your brain and get more things done. Get out of bed in the morning by counting backwards from 5.
Yeah.
Avoid that snooze button. It's the devil. If you don't start, nothing will ever happen. It's all about taking action and just making the first steps toward your goal. Even if it's not perfect, just get started somewhere.
Absolutely.
Finally, always invest in yourself first and develop self-discipline to motivate yourself and become a better salesperson. Take advantage of all the motivational books, blogs, podcasts, etc. out there. This has been fantastic, Everold. Tell me, where can listeners read more about your work and where can they reach out to you?
Well, thereidmethod.com. That's the website, and the book is called The Reid Method, and it is a blueprint for achieving sales mastery based on my now 28 years of sales success, not just in the automotive field, but in the advertising. And the 8 years I spent in advertising and marketing was in the outdoor sales field, traveling all of North America, knocking on doors, folks. Okay, so I know what that's like. I actually enjoyed that very much. Facebook at the Reid Method. There's also one for Everold Reid. It's still business, so hit me up there. Instagram, LinkedIn. Okay, those of you sales folks on LinkedIn, reach out to me on LinkedIn, Everold Reid or the Reid Method. I'd love to connect with you. And subscribe. Go to the website and you can subscribe to my blogs, my podcasts. It's all free. And anyone looking to ramp up sales for the next second half of this year or to kickstart next year, reach out to me. I'll be happy to deliver one of my workshops that will definitely get your butts in gear, to sell and become a top super achiever.
Awesome. Well, this has been fantastic having you on the show, Everold. I hope everyone's enjoyed this episode of Outside Sales Talk. Always feel free to give us feedback at feedback@outsidesalestalk.com. Please subscribe to us and leave us a review. Help spread the word. Thanks again, Everold, for being on the show, and I will talk to you soon.
Yes, I've had fun, Stephen. Thank you very much.